God is able to do extraordinary things. I've talked about revivals that I've seen around the world, and God has done some incredible things in countries and nations around the world. In Romania, where an entire nation was awakened to the glory of God. In a place like Nagaland in India, where God moved in that region, and there was almost the entire population was converted to Christ. And there are places where God has done a mighty work. Many people say, well, Sammy, what about the United States? Has God or will God work in the United States? In February 1970, there was a little community called Wilmore, Kentucky, outside of Lexington. And there's a Methodist College and university and seminary that's there called Asbury. And there was a professor in a chapel service who was to speak that day, and he just sensed that God did not want him to speak. And so he said, if there's anyone who has a testimony that you'd like to share, I want to invite you to come to the front. Several students came because, you see, students had been praying all semester long. They had been meeting to pray and seek God for a mighty revival on the campus. And as they prayed, the Lord began to do a work in their lives and show them sins and where they had failed Him. And those students came to the front and they began to confess where they had failed God. And as they did that, the Spirit of God fell in that chapel service. That chapel that normally lasted between 30 and 45 minutes ended up lasting 7 days and 7 nights without stop. All of a sudden, the Spirit of God came and people began to flow down to the front, pray, confess sins, repent. And this went on and on. People heard about it all across America, and they began to fly into Lexington and drive out to this small community in Wilmore, Kentucky, and there they would walk into the chapel, and as they would walk in, the Spirit of God would just come upon them. Many people all over America were awakened. As a matter of fact, many people believe that this was the beginning of an awakening among young people, which the secular media called the Jesus movement. I had the opportunity to speak at Asbury just a couple of months after that took place. And oh, the lingering presence of God was still there. God did something. You see, I discovered something and learned something very quickly about that revival at Asbury. It's not geography that matters to God. It's the heart. And they were hungry and they were thirsty for God to do a mighty work. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled." Oh, those students, that chapel, that school was certainly filled because there were some students who were hungry for God to work. God's not looking for position. God's not looking for geography. He's looking for a hungry heart.